Two, five, four, three, two, one. We're live.
See, we did it first this time before we even said anything.
Yay! Hey guys, it's Gil and Renee, and we are so happy. It's Thursday. It's our time. It's our time, guys. Hey, rich fam. Hey, rich bro. Hey, rich sis. We're here.
Yep, we are here. Thank you
And
for joining us.
thank you for joining us. We are so excited and grateful that you guys are here with us tonight. We hope that tonight will be inspirational, encouraging, educational, and fun. How's your day today, baby? You
It has
ready?
been eventful. It's been busy, eventful, hot, and all the stuff that goes along with doing all these things. And we apologize for being a few minutes late. We had to rearrange some things here as far as the setup. Because y'all know we have always we still haven't got our footing yet as far as where we're going to
We
do
getting
all of our
there.
recording, where we're going to do
We're
all of
trying.
our displays. We getting there. We getting there. We promise it's going to get there, but that has nothing to do with the content that we're going to actually be talking about. We appreciate you guys.
Hello, hello. Thanks for joining us. We're so glad you guys are here. We are so grateful for all of you guys who have chimed in and who have left comments, who have subscribed and viewed and watched. And so tonight we're going to talk about something. If you know, maybe you guys, some of you guys don't know, I am an entrepreneur. I have worked for myself. I went from high school to cosmetology school to owning and building salons. So for me, one of the things that I realized was I was thinking about it and praying about it and just talking to Gil and talking to the Lord. And so in order to have a business, in order to get people to invest in your business, you have to have what's called a business plan. And so I was
Or at least
like,
you should have one.
well, if you want people to invest in it, if you just plan on financing yourself, then you don't have to have a business plan. But the Bible says to write the vision down and make it plain.
Mhm.
Plain. So I think it's important that if you have to have a business plan, why don't you have to have a marriage plan?
Or in this context, or even a relationship plan.
Yes. But our focus is on the marriage relationship. And so, yes, this will apply if you're dating or if you're engaged. But the title is A Lasting Love,
Lifetime of
a
love.
lifetime of love with a business plan.
With
Not
a
a business
marriage plan.
plan, a business
A
plan, a
marriage.
marriage plan. So we need to understand that, while so in this day and age, it seems like everyone is making marriage a business, but they don't have a plan. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to show you how to establish a plan for your marriage.
So it doesn't matter whether it's a business or you have a hobby or you're actually doing something like we just did that we shared with you guys as far as the big move that we just made from Alabama to here to Texas. Well, even during all that, how many of you guys know that before you make big plans, the
Big
bigger the big
decisions.
decisions or the bigger your plan, the more you have to plan,
Yeah.
because if not, there's going to be a lot of wild cards that happen that are within your control, that you can actually control how they happen to you. But if you don't have the plan at least kind of roughed out, or even have an idea of how you want to actually do things, it can go sideways real quick. And then you, as the old saying goes, if you don't
If
if
you
you fail to plan,
then plan
plan to
to
fail.
fail.
So,
Yes.
and that goes along with anything. So, especially even in a relationship, I think as we were talking about this topic, even as we were setting up to do it, it's not something that you would naturally do or you would naturally think about after if you're in the dating phase, or even if you've been married for a while. That what plan did you have when you were dating, or even if you transpired into marriage, as far as what plan were you using?
And you know why it's important to have a plan though?
Why?
Because when things do go sideways and when life throws you wild cards, you have something to go back to fall on.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't have a plan, if you've not thought about a plan, if you've not thought about a strategy, if you've not thought about some things you need to do and things you don't do, I think it's really easy to just end up confused and lost and end up giving up. And so the reason why a plan is so important is because when things happen that are out of the ordinary, or when things happen that throw you a wild card, you can go back to what your original plan was, and it helps you to stay on course. It keeps you from getting lost.
No, absolutely. So even as we talk about this tonight, we're going to go into some things. We always got the before, the action plan, and maybe some things to look out for when you're doing this, or even after if you're in the stage of planning your relationship, or even actually in the relationship, maybe you can
Or if you're
start,
dating.
or if dating, or you can actually start thinking about some things as it pertains to the relationship plan. Because when you do that, it's going to enhance the relationship, and it's going to leave less things to chance, if I could say it that way. So it's not that you don't want to snuff out all the spontaneity and all the
Oh, yeah,
excitement of the
no.
things that actually happens in the relationship, but you still want to have something that is actionable, something that is intentional, because so many people, I think, jump into a relationship and they don't really know where it's going. You hear it a lot. We've heard it a lot. Where's this relationship going?
You're like, you're supposed to
If you
have a
don't
plan
know
for that.
where it's going, maybe it's because you don't have a plan or haven't talked about what is the intention or the purpose that we want to do with our relationship, because you should be thinking about it from the beginning. Why do you date? Why do you actually start going out with someone? It's because you want to build a long lasting relationship with them. Now, in our day and times, I think people just say, well, it's just to go have fun, it's just to hang out.
You could do
Well,
that with your friends.
yeah, you can, but if you want to develop a long-term relationship, it's going to be very challenging if you don't have something with intentionality in mind as you're going through. You're screening these people, you're actually going out and figuring out where's this going. So if you've ever been in a relationship and you had that question asked, where's this relationship going?
Right.
That may be something to think about when it comes to a plan.
Yeah. And I think a part of it is understanding that there are things that there are certain habits and there are certain things that we all do
Yep.
that make us successful at anything that we're successful at. I can guarantee you, if there's anything that you are doing well, you have a system, you have a plan, you have a
Process.
schedule, you have a budget. And so, why are relationships anything different? Why do we leave it to our emotions and our feelings and just physical attraction? And we don't take into consideration that that's why a lot of relationships do fail, because they were based on something that is so fluid, which is your emotions.
Right.
And so let's talk about the things
So,
that.
so as Renee mentioned just already, is about some of the bad habits. Some of the bad habits that you may want to think about as you're talking about in the context of relationships. That's what we're talking about. A lot of the things that we have mentioned, even in past videos and things that we talked about, it seems like we're just repeating the same things, but putting it in a different context. But it's not so much the same thing when you think about it in the terms of application. Because if you have, number one, bad communication, can you think about how that can affect the plans that you may want to make, not only with yourself or your business or anything that you may be doing, but even in the context of a relationship?
So what is bad communication?
Bad communication is literally where you don't have very good communication skills. You're not practicing some of the things that we talked about: assertive listening, or active speech, assertive listening. If you're not doing those things, it's going to make you wonder, well, what am I missing? What are we missing when it comes to communication? Why does it seem like I have a plan and you have a plan, but they're not connected together, of us working on a plan together?
And a part of good communication is being intentional about setting aside a time where you guys can communicate, because that's another big thing. If you don't have the time to listen, to understand, and to communicate what you need clearly, and then to be listening, if you're not setting aside, then that is the way that communication can really hurt you in regards to your relationship.
Another one we can talk about: are you taking the other person for granted? When we talk about that, it's literally where you've been in a relationship. Let's just say it's been little bit longer than the honeymoon stage, or the new stage, where you've already gone past the newness of the relationship. Well, now you can start saying, well, this person is going to be there for me automatically, whether it's you have a set standing date time, whether it's a Friday night, Saturday night. Oh yeah, well, we're going to go do this or go do that. Those are the things that's a habit that you can start thinking about, that may not be one that you want to develop and cultivate. Because when you start taking the person for granted in the early stage of your relationship, guess what you're going to do in the latter stages of the
Right. Because you
relationship,
play like you practice.
you definitely are going to take them for granted when the long term comes. Like they're just going to be there, or they're just going to respond this way when it comes to something that, say, you may want to do, or you may want to go to a certain place. Oh, well, we just always do that.
Right. And so these are the things to avoid.
Hmm.
These are the things you want to avoid. And we want to always start off with showing you the part of it that most of us fall into that we don't even realize. Like, well, I didn't realize that was not a good thing. So we always want to start off with where you could possibly be.
And I think about it in the context of taking for granted. Another way to think about it is complacency.
Mm-hmm.
That is one that you have to always be on guard for in your relationship, where you become complacent, where the things that you did to get him or her in the relationship, well, I ain't got to do it no more.
Right.
Have you ever had that feeling, or ever had that thought where, or even been victim of it, or even been the culprit of actually doing it?
And you know, one of the things in the title, A Lifetime of Love, for us, we have been married longer than some of the people that I watch talking about relationships have been alive.
Right.
And so the things that we're talking about are things that can really happen, things we have really done. And these are the things that, you have to be aware of going into it. So if you had someone who's already doing something, showing you and sharing with you some of the things to be mindful of, it benefits you to just kind of stop and just say, well, am I doing that?
Hmm. I even think about it from in the context of our own relationship. As Renee said, we've been together for a little bit of time.
Yeah. Since
Going
we're
on
18.
Going on 35 years, starting in December to be 35 years. So
But it'll
when
actually be 38 because we've been married for 35 and we dated for 3 years
right.
before we got married.
So when you think about that, these are things that we're sharing with you, not that we just Google a list and say, give us a list of all these things that people are doing or bad habits. Yes, while they may be common that you can probably find out there, it may be a similar list, but these are things that we thought about and talked about that we were like,
Yeah.
what was it some of the things that we did, or some of the things that we still have to be on guard for, even at this point in our relationship.
And even planning like events. One of the things I can say I'm really bad at is that I will get invited to do something and I just automatically say yes. I don't stop and say, hey, babe, well, how do you feel about this? Well, is this something you want to do? And so taking someone for granted doesn't just happen in the early stages of your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The longer you've been together, the more likely you are to just assume that that person is going to be there because they probably will be. But it's nice to be asked.
Even if you know the person is probably going to respond in a positive way, to just assume that, oh yeah, they're just going to go along with it.
Yeah.
You might be setting yourself up for failure. Or another bad habit that actually starts out with is unresolved conflict.
Yeah. And that could lead to a conflict because if I'm planning things for you to do
Mm-hmm.
without your permission or without your consent,
Right.
then it could build up a resentment. And we talked about it before. I'm an extrovert, Gil's an introvert. Gil is more likely to keep how he feels inside and act it out, where I'm going to act it out and talk about it right away. And so knowing how your mate is, knowing how your spouse is, you have to take that into consideration. So no, I don't want to take you for granted.
Yeah.
And when you told me that, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. So it's not just the guys do it, females can do it too.
And even when you think about it from unresolved conflict, if those things that left unsaid and they just going to start growing, that's going to fester and it's going to cause a problem in the latter stages of your relationship, because it's something that you cannot ignore.
It's like building when you have unresolved conflicts, and the only conflicts are the bad ones, are the ones that are unresolved. You have to be willing to talk about it. Even the small ones, the things you think are small and you think they don't matter, they build up. I was talking to Gil today. The way things get repaired or fixed or is one thing at a time, and the way things get left unresolved is one situation one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't deal with it when it happens, it's a lot harder to remember what really happened.
Right.
So you should deal with it. Don't allow unresolved conflicts to begin to grow and fester in your relationship.
Because, well, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to compromise. You're going to have to compromise when it comes to those unresolved conflicts, because you're not going to always get your way.
Oh, no.
Much as even if it's your plan and you got this plan that is just so laid out, it is so detailed. I'm a detailed person. I like to like to kind of lay out the steps. I like things to go the way I want them to go. I'm gonna be honest with you. I want it. If I set, let's just say a plan that's got 10 steps in it. If I set it up and it goes and I'm going along and all of a sudden we get to step 5 or 6 and all of a sudden something goes sideways, it bothers me. And I go a little bit, it throws me off. And so when I have to do that, and I thank God for Renee in this aspect, that's where we balance each other out in the relationship side when we have a plan that we've come together on, that she can pull me back. She can reel me in or give me a different perspective about looking at things, because when your plans get deviated or canceled out or altered, how do you respond? And how does your spouse or your significant other respond in helping you stay on track when it comes to those things that may set you off and may
Yeah.
put you in a bad place?
And I think I would have to say, you reel me in and I help you to see things from a different perspective.
Mhm.
Because I'm the one that's normally going to, because I'm the now person, I'm impulsive, I'm reactionary. So I'm the one that's going to go out. So you reel me in and I just help you to see things from a different perspective. I rarely ever have to reel you in. I have
Well,
to
it
pull you
happened,
back off the cliff, but not reel you in.
or because I see the it's
Yeah.
the or the
Follow the light, baby.
yeah,
Follow
it's
the
good.
light.
It's worse than it may seem and it may
Yes.
appear. I will expound it and make it worse than it what it may really be. But that's just how I am as a person. I'm still working on it, but
Yeah,
we'll
it's a
see it.
journey. It's
We'll
a
get
journey.
there.
It's a
Well, when you
journey.
think about a plan, think about a plan from our perspective, from our relationship that may have been challenging for you.
Well, I think a part of it was that we were 21 years old and we didn't have a plan. We really didn't. And so over the years, we've developed all these habits and mindsets and strategies that we realize, oh my gosh, well, yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things I could say where I think we had a plan, we didn't understand what we were doing was when it came to our money.
Hmm.
We've always allocated money for different areas. And so, and that's something that we both did together. We did that when we were dating. We worked on, I think one of the most important things about being able to have a plan with someone else is that they have to know about it. So you have
Mhm.
to be able to talk and you have to be willing to listen and to share and to take the other person's feedback. And so I think because we were married so young, um, we didn't really have as many obstacles as there are in this day and age.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that I think the younger generation realizes that, things they always say things are not like they were when you were coming up. No, actually, I think it's harder now. I think you guys have more up against, you have more
Oh my gosh.
distractions, you have more desire and opportunity. And so I
I,
don't see that as a positive. I see that as it's more challenging. So if you have more obstacles, you need more of a plan.
oh
You
yeah.
need more support, more direction, more guidance to help you to kind of navigate. Well, what did you say you wanted in the
Because
beginning?
I think it comes down to all the choices, because when you have an abundance of choices out there, whether it's in people or in circumstances that you may find yourself in, deciding whether it's a new job or a new vocation or a new place to
Hmm.
move, and all these different choices that you can make, it is imperative that you have a good plan for what is it that you are trying to accomplish,
Right.
whether it's from a relationship standpoint, whether it's from a vocational standpoint, or even if you just trying to, like we did, decided to move to a new location. You have to have a plan and you have to think it out. And so I would agree with Renee that it is more challenging now,
It is.
because you have more information at your disposal that you can, that add into the mix, that you have to consider, that when you have to consider a lot of data points and a lot of things, it can make it very challenging and very difficult to actually make a decision about anything.
And one of the things I was talking to Jackie, she was saying, y'all my people. She said, one thing I can say about y'all, you guys are action people.
Mhm.
A part of it is that no matter how many plans you have, how many plans have you actually completed?
Executed.
You executed, because even though there's lots of opportunities and there's lots of choices out there, what is the thing that you've committed to? What's the goal or the plan that you started out in that has a beginning, a middle, and an end? And so while, yeah, there's a lot more out there, but there are more opportunities for you to complete something.
Mhm.
And I think that's important, is that you see the plans that you have to fulfillment.
Let's talk about that when we talk about some things that you actually can avoid. One of them is unrealistic expectations.
Oh my gosh. I think if I had to say one thing that I think social media has hurt us
Mhm.
with, is that we know things about people that we shouldn't know, and we see things that they have that they really don't have. And so it makes you have this idea that, oh, in order to be happy, in order to have a good marriage, hashtag relationship goals,
Mhm.
I have to have all these things. And so I think that the expectation level of this day and age are probably 1,000,000% higher
Oh yeah.
than it was for us, because I didn't know what people ate for lunch, and I didn't know where they went on vacation, and I didn't know where they shopped, and I didn't know a lot of those things. So I think that we have probably more unrealistic expectations because we have too much information about people that we really don't know.
Right. And that you shouldn't have, because you don't know what they have to go up against, or the behind the scenes type of things that people are going through. And if you try to mimic or copy what you see out there in social media,
In a
it's going to,
short,
or even in a relationship, whether we like to watch the dating shows and
yeah,
reality shows when it comes to relationships and marriage,
relationships.
because even when we're not doing this, we're still trying to get information and learn things, even though we know a lot of that stuff is scripted and a lot of it is staged and that kind
But
of
it
thing, just to
makes
add the
you
drama
think about this generation,
and
and it
what they're
makes you
up
think
against.
about the culture, because one of the things that I learned from someone, they said you should read the word and the world. We cannot, as believers, as Christ followers, have no
Oh
idea
yeah.
what's going on in culture and think that we're going to be effective. I don't think that we have to be um I don't think that we have to try to mimic what is going on in culture, but I think we have to have an understanding of what's going on, so that when we share things, it can be relevant to the century that we're living in right
Oh
now.
yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about in this episode. We thank you for joining us. If you
Thank
just joined
you.
in, we've been just
Hello.
going. We try to look at the chime as far as the
Yeah,
feed and
we're so
see.
glad you
But
guys are
if you
here with
have
us.
something that you want to comment on, by all means, type it in the chat. We're here
Yes.
to respond. This is not just us talking, because y'all know we will. But we want to actually respond to other people. Like here, somebody says here, USA Job 94 Agency. Wow, as Christ followers, that's powerful. I appreciate y'all saying that. Thank you so much. Is that Julie? We appreciate you,
Oh,
Julie.
thank
Thank you
you. We
for
love you.
for
We
hanging out with
appreciate
us for a few
you.
minutes and just listening to some of the things that we're talking about. And if you're just joining us, we're actually talking about making a plan as it pertains to your
Yeah,
relationship,
marriage plan. It just like you
or
have a
even a
business, a
relationship plan.
relationship plan, marriage. Because, well, actually, a relationship plan in regards to a man and a woman should be for marriage.
Yes.
That's the purpose of dating. And so it's a lifetime of love, a lifetime of love. Because I think so many times we live in a society where people feel like marriage is a short-term thing, and that love can't last a lifetime. And it can, but there's things you have to be willing to do.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to have some intentionality when it comes to having a plan for your relationships.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought about even as we were coming up with this, as far as the topic that we were going to talk about tonight, because a lot of times we'll tell you how to the behind the scenes. I'm gonna tell y'all, don't listen right now,
Okay.
but I'm gonna tell you. Renee will tell me this is what the topic is. Go. No, and so what I'll do is just start praying about it. What is the Lord really speaking about this? Because you can have an idea of what you think, but let me tell you, when you re-examine some of the choices and some of the decisions and maybe some of the plans or lack of plans that you've had, especially when it comes to relationships, it's going to make you say, whoa, I got that wrong. Or
Mm-hmm.
how can I do something better, or I can get better at this? And so that's what we're trying to share with you guys tonight, as far as even in this topic. So we're talking about the things that you should kind of avoid. We
Avoid.
avoid when it comes to when it in plans. The one that we already mentioned was unrealistic expectations. The next one I would say kind of goes into everybody is stressed out.
Yeah.
When you have the
Is
if
everybody
if you
stressed
already,
out?
a lot of people are. I know sometimes I am. You know, some people just go with the flow, y'all. They just, well, I get stressed out. I would say a lot more than Renee does. You know, that's just my makeup. Hers, Renee is just cool as a cucumber, y'all. It don't take. It's not. It takes a lot to get her worked up over something. But let me tell you, when she gets worked up,
It's bad.
it you
But
better back up.
but let me tell you why I think we are stressed out.
Hmm.
Why our stress levels are so
And
high.
let's talk about it from an external stressors.
From okay, so I think it goes back to what we talked about. I think that we see too much. I think that we hear too much. I think that we know too much. And our unrealistic expectations cause a level. And see, Gil stress is different. Gil is a thinker, Gil is
Processor.
a processor, Gil is a provider, Gil is a protector, Gil is a planner. So his stresses come from trying to make everything good for everybody else. He has a different type of stress. But the stress that we're
Internal.
talking about from relationships is the expectation that this person is going to complete you,
Mm,
the demand that they're going to be available to you every single time,
mm.
that they're going to be something other than what they are. And I think what we need to do is we need to give people the freedom to be human. And so that could alleviate some of the stress we have in relationships, because I think it goes back to the first one was unrealistic
Oh
expectations.
yeah, absolutely.
Or we have this, we were watching one show and they talked about a hall pass where you want a relationship with somebody else. For me, that's stressful because one man for a lifetime is enough for me. I couldn't imagine having two or three of them. So I think
Mhm.
that some of the stress that we're experiencing in relationships, in regards to relationships, I'm not talking about other than a relationship, because I understand that stress is real. I understand mental health is real. I understand that, all those things are real. I'm not saying that that's not true, but I'm saying is that in regards to this topic, as far as having
Mhm.
a marriage plan, is that I think sometimes we're in love with the idea of being married, but we don't want to be a wife or a
Husband,
husband.
right?
So I think that some of the stress, and then sometimes we're spending too much money on the wedding.
Mhm.
We're spending more money than we can afford on the wedding, or we're living above our means. So I think some of the stresses we're experiencing in regard to relationships, it's a result of the choices that we're making.
And I think as it pertains to unrealistic expectations, one thing that I wanted to point out is when you're early in your marriage or early in your dating stage, or even maybe even a little bit later, those unrealistic expectations can cause conflict. And if you don't have those skills to alleviate the conflict, they're just going to bloom and get a whole lot worse. Well, when you have that, you have to think about what unrealistic expectation are you putting on your significant other or your spouse? Are they doing something or not doing something that you expected that you have not communicated in an effective way to let them know that, hey, I need this from you, or I
Right.
need that from you. I need a little more of this and a little less of that. Well, that's a part of the communication when we talk about assertive speech. Assertive speech is telling your significant other, your spouse, what is it that you need?
Right.
Well, sometimes that's going to require you to do some self examination to really fess out or flush out what is it that you are looking for? What is it that you need? Because in relationships, you have those unrealistic expectations, and then you will put them on your partner and expecting them to perform in such a manner that's going to make you complete and whole.
Right.
And when you
And
do
only
that, it's
God
going
can
to
do
be
that.
very challenging because I thought about it in the context of our early relationship when we were married less than 3 or 4 years, and it's nothing that we were doing intentionally. I had expectations that I expected just a wife to do. Let's just say it was cook dinner, have dinner on the table at 5 o'clock every evening, and I come in the
That
house
was
and I
never
sit
you.
down. Well, it wasn't, but I'm just using it as an example
Use
where
a real one,
a real one.
because that was never your thing. It's
No,
never
it
been your
wasn't.
thing.
Well, okay, this is gonna get a little racy. I'm preface that now. So you got anybody that's a little bit young,
We talking about marriage.
I had a realistic expectation that I was going to have sex every night early in our marriage, and Renee was going to walk around in lingerie and seduce me and be sexy all the time. That was my expectation, y'all. I'm going to tell it. I
We were
just said it.
21, so we
I
did
know
that
this
a
is out
lot.
there, and I know how many subscribers we got. I'm just going to put it out there. I said it, but little did I know that that don't happen, y'all. Sometimes it's not the right time. And sometimes Renee is not going to be walking around trying to look sexy all the time, not as beautiful as she is, she's not going to be looking like that all the time. And I had to adjust
Looking
my
like, you mean have lingerie on, or you
yeah,
mean?
yeah, something like you see on it's just in your head. It was in my head, y'all. I'm gonna tell you, it was in my head. I grew up and I gave myself I had to actually check myself. Not that she said that ain't gonna happen, because she probably would have tried, but that was just an expectation. I never communicated that to her and told her
Yeah, we didn't
that's
know.
what I wanted and that's what I expected, but it was there. You think about it, and if I had that and I had that expectation and I didn't communicate that, or I didn't alter my own thought processes, what do you think that would have done to the relationship in the long run? We would not be at this 35-year mark. I'm gonna tell you,
Oh,
we would have probably said, you know what, you just don't meet my needs, you just ain't listening to me, or this is how it actually comes out, you don't love me no more.
yeah.
And that's what that means, is you're not speaking my language, you're not saying, you're not giving me the things that I need, that actually how I feel loved. And if it's a physical aspect and all of a sudden I don't get it as much as I got it, it's going to cause a problem if I don't communicate that. So that's what we're kind of talking about when it comes to unrealistic expectations. I know I went out there a little bit, but y'all know we just gonna talk. I'm just gonna be real.
And I think a part of it is because that is such a big part of what causes problems in marriage and in relationships is sex, money, and family.
Oh yeah.
And so we have overcome all of those, sex, money, and family, because one, we were committed to marriage being forever.
Mhm.
And so I think one of the big things to avoid is having this idea that uh men are like shoes. If it don't fit, you just go buy a new pair. Or women are like cars. If she's not right, you just go get
Trade
a new
in.
one. And so I think at the root of all of the things you were saying, to avoid, the biggest thing to avoid is to feel that people are disposable,
Oh yeah.
or to feel that the other person is the problem.
Mhm.
Because it's really easy to think that, well, and for us, I did hair for 28 years. Gil was in the Air Force, and he dealt with airmen. And so we have kind of heard, not everything, but we've heard a lot. But the biggest thing is thinking that the relationship didn't work because of the other person.
Mhm.
What have I done? What are the things that I have brought into our marriage and relationship that has made it, that's altered or been negative to the plan that we have?
I've said it in before that Renee has made it. She's light. I said it before, maybe a long, long time ago, and I used the analogy when I say she's light. I'm saying when it comes to the things that she expects from me, she has expectations of me, but they're not unrealistic that I cannot achieve. And she does make it easy for me to satisfy those things for her. When I come out and I try to do something for her, she's appreciative. She shows me that she appreciates even the smallest gestures that I may do, because the effort is there, because the desire is there, because I want to please her. And I'm not talking from a physical aspect, I'm talking about it from a day to day aspect, whether it's something as simple as taking out the trash, or from a physical side, where you want to be that person. But also, when it comes to those expectations she has, they're very much achievable, and she makes it easy because she communicates those things to me that she needs. So that's something that just came to my mind while we were talking about
Yeah, and I would have to say that when I think about, we're talking about a love that lasts a lifetime and having a marriage plan, a part of the plan is looking at the nature and the character of the person that you're talking about, that you want to develop this plan with. Because if the person is short tempered and self centered and self focused and self driven, it's going to be a lot harder to even come up with a plan or have a lifetime of a relationship with that type of a person. And so you need to not ignore all those things when you're dating. The person that Gil is right now is the person he was when we were dating. Of course, he's grown, he's mature, he's a much better version, but the essence of who he is the same person that he was when we were dating. And I think that one of the things that we see happen so many times, the reason why marriages and relationships don't last is because, one, you don't have a plan, but you have a plan, and then they have a plan, and your plans don't line up.
it. Right. And you have to make it from a standpoint of we are in this together. If you're in it together, that is something that you should be communicating about the intentionality about where you see the relationship going. It's never too, I'm going to say it this way. I don't think it's ever too soon in a relationship, even when you're dating, to talk about what is it, the long-term plans. It doesn't necessarily say it has to include you, but the person has to have a plan for life, have to have a plan of where they see themselves financially, emotionally,
Spiritually,
spiritually,
physically.
physically. And if they don't have those kind of plans, and if you don't have those kind of plans, maybe you should start thinking about it and contemplating, because guess what's going to happen? You're not going to know what you're looking for when you're out there.
Right.
If you're out there and you really have no idea what is it that I want in a mate, in a partner, in a spouse, and you have no plan or no idea, those are things that you should be contemplating right now while you're in your singleness.
Right.
That's some of this is probably the most selfish time that you can ever have, as far as being an individual, where you can be only thinking about yourself from the standpoint of what is it that I want out of this thing called life? What is it that I want out of the relationships that I'm pursuing? And then be intentional about looking for that. And if somebody is not meeting those things that you have said, you may want to think about moving on.
Right.
Because if you don't, you're going to settle.
Right.
Do not settle, because when you settle, that means you have lowered your standard. That means you have compromised what you are, the essence of what you're looking for.
You took your plan and you balled it up and you threw it away.
Because
you're gonna get what you get.
And because it can get challenging, and Proverbs 3 always comes to mind as one of my life scriptures. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him first, and he will direct your path. And when you do those things, I have done it multiple times, whether it's from vocationally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. I have put those words into practice and said, you know what, Lord, I have a plan. This is what my plan is, even when it came down to like this move. But I had a plan. Well, let me seek you first. What is it that you think? Let me lay my plan at your feet, and you tell me, is this lining up? And because you'll know it. Now, I didn't hear it audibly, but you'll know the path, because he will make it plain. He said it in his word.
He didn't say he was going to make it easy. He didn't say he was going to make it perfect. He didn't say he was going to make it quick, but it's going to be good. And I think, to me, another thing in the whole plan thing is that we talked about this was your plan should be in pencil. Because if your plan is in Sharpie or in ink, you're going to have a hard time. So it's important to have a plan. These things we're talking about are very practical things to do, but you also have to be flexible and fluid and understand that God's idea of perfection is not that you hit the bullseye, but that you strive towards hitting the bullseye.
So we're talking about making plans. I know we kind of deviated a little bit when we were talking about it from the relationship context. But as you can see, it's not just relationships, it's just making a plan for life, because your relationships are going to be a part of your life. And if you have not made plans when it comes to your own individual life, how would you realistically expect that it's going to work out when you bring another person into this relationship, into your life with you? Right. So we want to share with you, as we coming up near the end, but we want to just share with you some of the things that you can actually do. And we actually got a list for this one, and I'm going to share it with you guys, because we want to make sure we communicated the things that we wanted to share in the time, because I know we'll get off on a tangent and we'll start talking about something. And this is just to help us keep on track. So the first one is to have an understanding when it comes to making a plan is to set clear goals.
Right.
When we talk about setting clear goals, it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about throughout this whole almost 40 something minutes, is you have to know what it is that you're looking for. Because if you don't, you're not knowing what you're looking for.
And one of the things I had someone ask me, I was asked this before, how do you find a good husband? How do you know? And one of the things that the Lord gave me to share was write down what you're looking for. I mean, be specific, be clear. I want 5'3",
6'1",
whatever. All those things, right? All
the physical,
those things
the mental, the emotional,
financially. I want the love of the Lord. All those things, and then you become the list, because you are going to attract what you are, not what you want. So just like we're just talking about coming up with a plan, the first person you need to have in line is yourself. And so it's important that you understand that, and all the things you were talking about in coming up with a plan for marriage, is that these were things that we have over the years had to do individually as well as together. Because if I haven't done it and practiced it for me, how could I then take somebody else on a journey with me? So it's important that you focus on the plan and the goals being that you know who you are and what you're looking for.
Number two, effective communication. It is the bedrock. It is the foundation. It is the
Yes.
nucleus of everything that you're going to do when it comes to relationships. And when we say it, everybody knows. If you've been watching us for a little
How,
while, say it again.
honest, open, and transparent.
They tell them what it means,
So you
man.
have to be able to be honest with yourself, be transparent with the other person, and be open to correction and feedback from
Hmm.
other people. And you have to be, communication is listening to understand, talking with clarity and accuracy, and giving feedback to the other person. So it's not just talking, it's talking
Right.
and listening to understand.
See, so I won't even go even further than that. And another one that you want to start doing is have a conflict resolution strategy. When we say that, what we talk about and we share with our couples is there's no bad conflicts that is only when they are uncommunicated or unresolved is when they
And
turn bad
personal.
and personal.
Mhm.
Conflicts doesn't are not bad until they turn personal. As long as you're staying on point and on topic about what the source and the root cause of the conflict is, that is what you want to focus on. So many times we will focus on symptoms and not the actual root of what it is that I have a problem with, whether it's Renee with me or me with Renee. You know, those are the things that you have to think about when we say a conflict strategy. That's what we're talking about. Have in mind about how do I want to see this? We talked about compromise tonight. You have to be willing to compromise because guess what? You're going to get things wrong.
Right.
And if when you do get those things wrong, be hot enough to say, you know what, I got that wrong. Maybe we should do it a different way. Maybe we should think about it in a different capacity.
Yeah. And it's understanding that having setting aside the
Mhm.
time, making sure you're clear about what you want to talk about, and not making it, I have a problem. When you do A, B, or C, it makes me feel like this. Another big thing that's important in conflict strategy, in conflict resolution, is one conflict at a time. You can't resolve more than one conflict at a time. You need that one conflict to be resolved between the two of you. And when the person brings a conflict, you don't bring yours. That's another thing to avoid.
If you have more than one conflict that you bring up at any one time, that's an indicator that you have some unresolved things that you're not bringing to the table.
Right.
If you are not bringing those things to the table, it's going to get cloudy, it's going to get muddy, and you're not going to be able to focus on the source and the root of the conflict itself.
Right. So one conflict at a time within
So,
24 hours.
and I'll share with you one thing that Renee taught me when it comes to conflict. We had a disagreement about something. She brought it up to me saying, "Okay, babe, this is what I have a problem with." She started telling me about it, and guess what I did? You would thought we started playing tennis, y'all. I started coming back at her about, well, I got a problem with this. You know, I'm basically smacking the ball right back over at her. Well, if I had a problem, I should have brought it to her. It must not have been a problem, but why did it become a problem when she brought up something she had a problem with me with? When you're going that tit for tat and you're going back and forth over things and over
It's only going to
conflicts,
escalate.
it's only going to escalate and you're going to get off track and you're not going to be able to focus. So focus on the symptom. Don't focus on the symptom. Focus on the root cause. Number one, another one, shared beliefs
Three.
and value. Number three, shared beliefs and values. We kind of talked about that one. You want to elaborate on that
Yeah.
one?
I think it's important that you share the same faith, not necessarily the same denomination, but you have to have the same faith. You have to both believe in Christ being at the center of your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have the same faith system, that's going to be a big divider. Because for us, the Bible is the final authority. The Bible is the foundation of everything that we do. So when we both got married, we neither one of us were saved. We were both unbelievers. We were both just lost. And so it being unequally yoked, being with someone who has a different belief system than you may not think that it's a problem, but the longer you're in a relationship, you're gonna draw the other person a direction. and you want to make sure that you're drawing them towards something positive. It's dating should not be evangelism. You should not decide you're going to find somebody that's lost and evangelize them and then marry them. It's better to marry someone or to date someone that is at the same place where
Mhm.
you are in your faith, in your relationship with God.
Absolutely. And this is one that I'm going to share with you that was challenging for me early in our relationship. It was being emotionally supportive. When I say that, I'm talking
That's
about
number
being,
four.
oh, number four, being in touch with my emotions enough to be able to be there for Renee in a capacity that we needed as we're making these plans. If I am emotionally ignorant, I was early in our relationship where I was just not in touch with my emotionals about other than lust and anger. I had those two down pat. But one thing that Renee was instrumental in helping me with is understanding that what it's like to feel scared or vulnerable or
Mhm.
nervous or anxiety or all these other emotions that comes up, to be able to rightfully discern and identify what it is I was experiencing, because women are just more in tune with their emotions than men are, that I was able to start understanding, okay, this is just a part of being human. And if
Mhm.
I'm able to understand what it is I was feeling, I could actually communicate that to her in a way that she could help me understand it. So those plans that we work on the plan together was able to come to fruition and work out because I humbled myself, or and even exercising being hot.
Yeah. As far as the being emotional, I think the thing that Gil has helped me is to not be so emotional, because sometimes you have to think things through. You have to be rational. You have to be logical. And so a part of the plan is realizing that you're both going to bring something different. You both have um, a view and a perspective and a bend and upbringing. I mentioned that we were talking about grace and truth.
Mhm.
I grew up in a home filled with truth. Lots of rules and do's and don'ts.
Mhm.
And a truth without grace is just harsh. Gil grew up in a home filled with grace. Lots of liberty and freedom and the ability to speak and share your thoughts. But grace without truth is not meaningful. It's not beneficial. So you need them both. And so just understanding that the way you grew up is going to shape the way you are in your marriage, in your relationship, and being open to the fact that you both are going to help each other to grow. A healthy relationship is one where both people are bringing something that the other person needs, and it's accepted and appreciated and prized and not dismissed and undermined or made fun of.
And that kind of leads us to the last one that we'll share with you is when you're going to making these plans with each other, realize that you're going to have to make adjustments.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be flexible. We talked about it at the very beginning about how my inflexibility caused problems with me. So imagine that in your relationship. So be willing and understand that adjustments are going to have to be made when it comes to the relationship or even the plan that you're making together. And when you are so rigid and so locked in and so focused on, no, we got to do it this way or this has to be done this way, it's going to cause a problem.
Right.
It's going to cause a problem to the point where you're going to have those conflicts and you may not be understanding, well, where's this coming from? We are sticking with the plan, but mere be understanding that there are going to times where you're going to have to assess where we are at in our plan
And adjust the
together
plan.
and adjust it.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to share with you guys, I'm so grateful for all of you guys who are here with us right now and who are watching in the future. We talked about, a business plan. We talked about a marriage plan. And the reason why I brought up the business plan, because I'm going to be doing a course to show you guys how to use YouTube as a business. We have chosen YouTube because we know that it gives us a platform to really help people and to make it a community. The difference between YouTube and the other platforms is that YouTube is a business, and it is in the business of building relationships. Like so many of you guys, we talk throughout the week. I answer your questions. We give feedback. I love it. And so I want to help you to know how you can use it to benefit you in whatever ministry or business you have. Because I think that so many times we don't realize that everything requires someone showing you how to do it. And relationships and
Just like this.
marriage,
Yeah.
it's our heart, it's our passion. But I also realized, for me, I've built businesses from the ground up so many times, and I never really saw that that was a thing. but it's such a need to show people, well, how do you get started? Well, how do you get an EIN? How do you get an LLC? How do you get a business account? How do you, come up with a name? So there's a process to that. And so I'm going to be doing a course in September to help you guys with that. And so you guys are welcome to get more information about that. I'll put it in there, but I want to kind of mention it in the video because I want you guys to know that it's our desire to help you experience success in every aspect of your life. And if there's gifts and talents that God has given us to share with you guys as a community, we want to do that. We have reached 19,000 subscribers. We're almost at 20,000. We love you guys. We're so grateful. It's so humbling to see the response and how you guys are, watching and sharing and commenting. And we are honored, and we do not take it lightly because we know that your time is valuable, and we are just grateful that we get to serve you. If there's questions you have or comments or topics you want us to share, please share it in the comments.
On the
and
videos.
If you're watching later, share it in the comments as well. We are just grateful and excited about what's going on with you all. So many people have shared things, and we're just humbled to be able to serve you.
So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us for this Thursday night live session.
Hot live.
But we appreciate you guys. We will see you back here next week.
And if you have questions, please put them in the comments. Things you want to know, questions you have.
Or even topics that you want us to discuss.
Yeah, we want to be.
We're always looking for it. We have over 400 plus videos out there.
480 videos.
Whatever, it's a lot. So there's always more that we can bring to you guys, and just let us know what it is that you want us to talk about, and we will bring it.
Yeah. So we love you, and we thank God for you. Thank you for everybody who's here with us live now and who will watch in the future. Put in there where you're watching from, because we want to know you and we want you to know us. And we love you, and you are more than enough. And thanks for spending time with us.
Remember, we're stronger together.
And you are more than enough.
See y'all.
See you guys next Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Night.
Good night. Bye-bye, guys.